One of our own receives a prestigious award, and you will meet him. And the Dean of the State Senate is in the house. Roll it, Scott. Happy holidays to everybody and welcome back. You know, for the past 2 decades plus, there has been one name synonymous with politics in the capital city region, and he's here with us today. State Senator Cleo Fields, representing Senate District 14, a friend of mine for a very long time who, I don't know why this is the first time you ended up being on the show. Maybe I invited him and he just kept saying no. But how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Look, I am elated to be on the Clay Young Show. I've been dying to do this for 2 years, and I was like a little disappointed, quite frankly, Clay. I was like, why is it that he can't invite, haven't invited me to the show? Talked to my PR people, they said, I don't think he wants you on the show. So when you called, I was like excited. I canceled like 3 events just to be here today.
Okay, so we're throwing the high heat early on the show here. All right, but look, before you and I get into it, you and Senator Barrow are having a community event on December 16th. There is the graphic on the screen, starting at 8 a.m. at the very lovely Louisiana Leadership Institute there on Hooper Road. Let's talk about this Christmas turkey giveaway.
Yeah, I do it every year, and this year the Council on Aging, Tasha Clark and Regina Barrow said, look, let us do it with you. We give away 1,000 turkeys every Christmas, and it's a great time for people in the community to come out and you know, actually celebrate. We have the leadership choir singing Christmas carols. It's a great opportunity to interface and with the community, and I'm just so excited that both Regina and the Council on Aging are teaming up with us this year. So it's going to be a fun time.
That's awesome. And again, that's the 16th, 8 a.m. at the Louisiana Leadership Institute on Hooper Road. So let's talk a little bit about this journey that you have been on. Southern graduate, Southern Law graduate, one of the more prominent students who've ever come out of that great institution. But where did all this start, Cleo, with even wanting to get into elected office in public service?
You know, people don't realize, but my career actually all started with a laugh. Okay. You know, when I was in the 6th grade and first day of school, everyone would stand up and state their name and what they want to be in the future. And up until that time, I really wanted to be a police officer. And so all the kids before me said, my name is John Doe, Jan Doe, I want to be. And some said, you know, things that were interesting. Some said, I want to be a lawyer. Some said, I want to be an engineer. And so when my turn came around, it was in Ms. Dickerson's class. I said, I wanted to think of something big and bigger than anybody had said, you know. And I stood up and I said, my name is Cleo Fields, and I want to be president of the United States of America when I grow up. I knew nothing about being a president, but it was a big thing. Yeah. And what happened, everybody in the class laughed, including the teacher. And she didn't laugh, you know, being mean to me. Everybody thought it was funny. Yeah. And from that day forward, I said, I'm gonna find out what a president does, and that's what pushed me to law school. That's what pushed me to the Senate. That's what pushed me to Congress. And you know, and I've learned that, you know, most presidents come from governor's mansions of the U.S. Senate. I ran for the governor. That didn't work out that well, but that's where it all started. Yeah. I mean, no one in my family was in politics. My mom was always, you know, she would vote, but she was not actively involved in politics of any sort. So it all started with a laugh.
When you were at Southern, working your way through your law degree and looking kind of far afield at what was ahead, where did you see yourself fitting in what was ahead of you?
Well, I really started feeling where my destination, like my senior year in high school. I was part of this Upward Bound program at Southern, and you know, Dr. Yates, Ms. Santamont, they actually took me in and just started making it real for me. You know, you could really go to college and you could really, you know, do well. And that's why I'm such a strong supporter of the Upward Bound program nationally. you know, kids need to be exposed to college in high school. And Upward Bound gave me that opportunity, and so that's where it all started. And you know, I had opportunities to go to other colleges, a few other colleges in the state, none out of the state, never even considered it. But I chose Southern, you know, because Southern was that warm, gave me that warm feeling.
Yep.
You know, everybody wanted to help me.
Right.
And my freshman year, I thought of something real crazy. I ran for freshman class president and won, and I was president of the largest student class on the campus. And so Southern, you know, but for Southern, you know, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today in this capacity, you know. So that's what the real training ground started, was at Southern University.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break and come back and talk more with Senator Fields. You guys stay right there. If you are in the mood for a podcast, I know a guy. Log on to podcast225.com, or you can get it on the Apple Podcast app or iTunes. Hey, look who it is. It's me, Clay Young Show Podcast. Episode 288 is up right now, and it features a discussion about sex trafficking, not just here, but across the country. Did you know, with all of the tens and tens of thousands of children who are sex trafficked in this country, there are only 800 beds to service those children? Get some inside information right now at podcast225.com. In fact, episode 289 is being recorded today, and it'll be a follow-up to that discussion on sex trafficking. We're talking with State Senator Cleo Fields, representing District 14, former candidate for governor, also a former member of the U.S. House of Representatives. We'll come back to that in a little bit because he might be making a return trip depending on how things go. Let's talk about your success in the legislature. All right, there's been a few things about you that I've known to be consistent in all of your time there. Mission focused, but you are able to get things done in ways that other people can't. And brother, you've had the hot hand since you got back to the Senate. So let's talk about your methodology and actually getting things done.
Well, I mean, it's relationships, you know. Look, the good Lord has blessed me to be there, to having had the opportunity to serve in the past, and that really helps. I mean, to walk into a body for a third time, very few people get that opportunity. And so since the good Lord has blessed me with that opportunity, I use it for the betterment of the people that I serve. And it's about working together. And particularly now we're in the super minority. We have to work with our colleagues to get things done. But there are some great young legislators that are just, I mean, they are just superb. They're great. And, you know, I think the future is bright, particularly for, you know, African-American community, because we got a lot of young African-American leaders that are elected. You know, you take right here in Baton Rouge, you got, you know, Vanessa Caston LaFleur. I mean, she is awesome.
Dynamic,
you know. You got a host of them from New Orleans, and even
Jason Hughes from down there.
Man, those
is special.
They
Royce
are
Duplessis,
so young, and I, you know, and there used to be a time I would walk into the halls of the Congress and the legislature, and I was the youngest.
Right.
And now when I walk in there this January, I'm going to be the dean of the Senate. I'm going to. That doesn't mean I'm the oldest. But I'm certainly the longest serving.
Oh, I like that.
And
if you put that on a coffee mug, bring me one.
Okay.
Look, let's talk a little bit about this transition that we are about to undergo. Obviously, Governor John Bel Edwards is ending his 2 terms, 8 years in the office, and Jeff Landry, former AG, is going to be going in, bringing in with him, as it goes, his own team and his own philosophy about governance. What is your expectation?
Well, first of all, I certainly want to thank the present governor. I mean, John Bel Edwards has been very, very effective as a governor, and there's been no governor who's gone through as many crises as he has gone through. I mean, he stayed on the job. I mean, did not blink for one moment. The incoming governor, Governor-elect Jeff Landry, I think he's going to be fine.
Okay.
I mean, I think he's going to make a clear investment in HBCUs.
So I've heard.
And that is, education has always been my thing. If you can educate a kid, a kid going to do fine. And so I think his commitment to education is going to be strong. We are going to sit and see how it all unfolds. But education is going to be a major priority of mine. I've told the President of the Senate, I'm not going to chair education this upcoming term. But we have done some good things. I mean, we made kindergarten mandatory, which in my view was a necessity. We've invested more money in early childhood education because that's where the rubber meets the road. You got to get a kid young, and then you got a good chance with them. But when you try to get them in the third and fourth, fifth grade, you waited too long. So
particularly kids who are in disinvested communities, and I've had this conversation with law enforcement people that we have to look at investment in the same way that we look at enforcement, because both have an impact on public safety in a community. You can't just think about on the back end when they cause trouble, let's arrest them, without thinking about resources from education to just, common sense things communities need to help kids thrive. And I think that discussion is happening now. I got 30 seconds. We're going to take a break and come back. In fact, I'll tell you what, we'll just do this. We're going to come back and talk with Senator Fields about the next 4 years, whether or not he is interested in going back to Washington, D.C. Lord knows we could use him up there. And then I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman who won a prestigious award, and he might be outdressing me today. I'm not too happy about that. That's still on the way. And don't forget, podcast225.com to check out the latest episode. All right, so there is a discussion, and it's in the court right now, about whether or not Louisiana will get another majority minority, easy for me to say, congressional district. The state population is more than 30% minority, which by constitutional statute means there should be representation of that such in Washington, D.C. I don't know why that's so hard to understand. It's not even that complicated of a math thing, but here we are, and the expectation is there is going to be another congressional seat that is majority minority. It's yours if you want it, and you know that already. So do you want it?
Well, let's talk about the need for it first. I tell members of Congress and members of the legislature, I said, who was the first black elected to the U.S. Congress? And they always go to South Carolina. The first black elected to the U.S. Congress was from Louisiana, John Willis Menard. And he was never seated. That's why most people don't know about it. A gentleman from Ohio, took the well and said it's too early for a Negro to be seated in Congress. Let's save the $5,000, and they sent him back to Louisiana. That gentleman ended up being president of the elected president of the United States, President Garfield. So at the end of the day, Louisiana has a rich history in electing African Americans to the Congress. And the state is a third black. I'm glad that the courts, see it the way we as members of the Legislative Black Caucus see it, and the Legal Defense Fund. And that is, there's no reason not to. The plans that we have proposed are more compact than the present congressional district, and there's just no reason whatsoever to not have a district that gives an African American an opportunity to be elected.
You didn't answer the part about whether or not you want to go
Well,
up
because
there.
I tell people, don't put don't count your chickens before they hatch, and don't put the cart before the horse. I mean, it's my job as a member of that legislature is to do justice by all the people in the state. I mean, we have to work hard and profusely, like we have been, all of us, the entire Legislative Black Caucus, to make sure that the Voting Rights Act is enforced in Louisiana, and that's a job that we all have. and I don't want to get in front of that. That's the biggest, that's the main focus. Really, it's the only focus. And all of my colleagues are clear about that. I think a second district will be created in Louisiana, either by the legislature or by the courts. And I think the courts have made it very clear in terms of timetable. We've gotten the state rather, has gotten a 15-day additional days. So by the 30th of January, either the legislature would have acted with a plan that complies, with federal law or not. And if they have not, then the courts will do it for us.
It's just a bad look that you have to fight so hard for something that is just relatively common sense, and it's legal. It's not something you're making up or trying to take.
We need to equate. There was a time we had subsection 5 of the Voting Rights Act, where there was about 10 states under subsection 5, Louisiana being one. Every time we passed a law as relates to voting, we had to get approval. We had to go get it pre-cleared.
Yeah.
And when they got rid of the meat of subsection 5, all of these states, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, we're dependent on the federal courts because legislatures are not going to apportion themselves out of power.
Yeah.
So
give me another minute, Scott. Go finish your thoughts, Senator.
We're totally dependent on the federal courts.
Yeah. Yeah. In this last minute now, politics as a function of government is as toxic as I have seen it in a very long time. And you mentioned earlier, you do have relationships across the aisle. You are respected, so you can go into a room, have a rigorous debate with someone who sees it from another end of the spectrum, but at least leave with a modicum of decorum where you walk out and you didn't just, lob F-bombs at one another and you hate each other. It's just you tried to get something done. How do we get to more civility in politics now, Senator, in this last 30 seconds?
I think we got, I think I think in Louisiana, at least the Senate, we are good for now, and I think we will continue to be good. I think the U.S. House, I think when I was in the U.S. House, for example, we would have debates on the floor.
Yeah.
And then that evening I would go and have dinner with a Republican member of Congress. I went there about
30 more,
three years ago, and I saw, I'm not going to call his name, a Republican member of Congress, and I met with a Democrat, and I said, look, let's go and have dinner. And he said, no, we can't do that. And it's just amazing, man. We got to learn how to disagree and not be disagreeable, and
right.
and I think it's not them. They feel that their constituents wouldn't allow them to do that.
I got to get out of here now. We'll get the senator back.
I want to be back, and I was
right
wrong.
there.
It was more than 2 years.
Well, Apostle Dr. Lloyd Bentsen and his lovely wife, Evangelist Delberta Bentsen, are here. They are recipients of the President's Lifetime Achievement Award, and I told you, he is as sharp as a new knife, and that's okay. We talked off air about how we're going to sell it up the next time he's in here. Let's talk. First of all, welcome to the show. Glad to have you all here. Let's talk a little bit about what this award means. It is because of your community investment and what you do here, and we need so much more of that.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the award.
Well, the President Lifetime Achievement Award, basically, they value those in the community that give service. And we have brought the spiritual element to the community as far as serving in aids of victims of hurricanes, and not only here in these United States, but across the country. Because this Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award is basically the concept of servitude. What can you contribute to the community, really in the United States as a whole?
Yeah.
And we have work that we do in other states, for feeding the homeless.
Yeah.
And also across seas in the islands like Tahiti with orphanage.
Yeah.
And in parts of Africa with home for the widows.
Yeah.
And so we provide this type of service of volunteer just to help humanity. You know, and that's my major heartbeat of what I do across the country, and even in this city.
Evangelist Benson, I'm a big proponent of giving back and being involved in the community. Like I talked with Senator Fields earlier,
Yes.
I do believe in terms of public safety, there has to be enforcement, but there needs to be investment. You got to invest in the people, love on them a little
Yes.
bit. Tell me why this is important to you.
Well, it's very important to me because I've worked with the Lott Carey Foundation, which brought the Harvey Restoration Grant for different families that were, in need. And so it's very important of knowing and seeing what the community needs, and seeing these families going through these different types of disasters, and to be able to bring aid and to be able to bring like a peace and comfort at times like this. It's very rewarding. It's very rewarding.
How do we catalyze or encourage just more people giving or doing? Because I spoke at Rotary one time, and I remember telling the group, people talk about what can the mayor do, what is the chief doing, what is this one doing, and my question is, what are you doing?
Right.
How do you motivate more of that?
I believe that with spiritual leadership, we have congregations, people that shows up voluntarily every Sunday, inspiring them to have other, which was the main mission of Christ, and that's who we follow example after. And I think that we need to really look into the depth of the need of those who are less fortunate, of those that are going through things that many of them can even get in assistant government or either from any type of resources. And I
Do
think
you think people feel heard? Do you think people feel heard in terms of what their needs are?
if you're hurt,
Do they feel heard? Do they feel like people like the systems are listening to them?
well, I think the system are listening, but I think it goes back also to the Bible, where the Bible said we as leaders, spiritual leaders, must be a voice for the voiceless. We must speak of what they cannot get their voice to say. Even though they are there, we can see it, but do they have the access to things that can give them that voice? So we that's in position, we need to be the voice for them. So this is what I have done over the years, is speak on behalf of those that are unfortunate, in need. The community is suffering, even in our cities, with the infrastructure of cities and housing and things of this nature. There are things that we can do to help, as far as from the clergy standpoint.
Well, listen, Dr. Benson has agreed to come back in a couple of weeks to talk with us as we go into the new year. We always do a few segments on perspective, and we're going to talk about 2023, looking back, and then 2024 perspective about that. He's going to come back, but I'll be ready for him next time with that suit. Don't worry. I'm not playing. Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Like I said, I'll be ready for you.
Yes, sir.
All right, you guys have a great, safe weekend. Thank you all for watching the show, and don't forget about the podcast. See you next week.